Let me take this live, start streaming. It's going to YouTube. We're live to Facebook. You could change the Facebook stuff to say something other than just the show. We're currently live, and we are going to roll the video. What? Should be. Yep. 1 minute. Yeah, Evan, you're going to be the first mic up, and then I'll get the rest of them up as we go along. 45 seconds. Oh, I'm going to bring your mic up first. Thirty seconds. 20 seconds. 15. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go.
Welcome you to Madison, Wisconsin for 2018 AUDL Championship Weekend. It is the eve of the semifinals. I am here with 3 AUDL owners and coaches and players. I think everyone here has played except for Mike Donardis, who co-owns and coaches the Raleigh Flyers. Exton Titcomb from the Seattle Cascades, co-owner and player and coach as well. You do everything. Tim DeBile getting ready to coach here at Championship Weekend, the engineer of this entire festival here in Madison. And I'm Evan Lepler. Thanks so much for joining us. And yeah, we got Championship Weekend coming up. Tim, you are the one who's probably the most nervous of any of us. How are you feeling on the eve of what's a pretty big day for the Madison Radicals franchise?
I love days like today because I basically worked all day getting the stadium ready to go, so I haven't been able to think about the game. But I'm super excited for tomorrow.
Come on. Yeah. What are you nervous about? What are the things that you're vacillating about tonight as you tinker in your mind about how you're going to attack a team that you've never played before?
Well, the ongoing joke all week has been like we have to get up by more than 8. Since last time we were up 7 late in the game and lost. So I think for us we're just focusing on the fun of being able to play in front of the home crowd. Obviously we did a lot of strategy stuff. We had practice on Wednesday. We ran over the LA Aviators plays and their sets and some of their junk Ds and stuff like that. But right now, we started in January and it's been this long grind of a season, and we're just ready for tomorrow to happen now.
Are you on speaking terms with the 2 guests sitting to your right?
They're 2 of the people who have managed to beat us at the stadium. So we kind of talked about that earlier today. But yeah, I love them both. They're great guys.
Exton, has the Los Angeles folks been reaching out to you for tips on how to win at Breese Stevens Field the past couple weeks?
Yes, the key is to go down by 8 or more points.
And Mike, you obviously had success here this year. What is it about coming to Madison? And I mean, I know you guys had a great night. Everything was clicking, but it was more than that. Anyone who comes to Breese Stevens talks about how special of a place that you feel walking and coaching, playing on this field.
Yeah, I mean, it's an electric place to play. I haven't been to anywhere that's comparable in terms of the event, the crowd, the amenities, everything. It's just a fantastic place to play, and the energy is electric. And fortunately, we took a lot of that energy away from the crowd when we played.
Yes, you did. That was Memorial Day weekend when Raleigh came to Madison and won pretty convincingly. Although, Tim, I remember talking to you after that game, and you thought the game was a little closer than the final score indicated. When you went back and watched the film, you didn't feel as bad as you did that night?
No, not at all. We had, I think, the worst maybe 14 minutes of ultimate I've ever seen us play in 140 games. I think they went on a 9-1 run. Other than that, I mean, the game was actually pretty close. The second half we got within 4 and had the disc and just turfed it. Or I think Peter Graffi, threw it away. And then they kind of pulled away again. But I think the final score was 8. So I think we played pretty close, other than that period right at the beginning of the game. And I'm not trying to make excuses, but it had been 75 degrees the entire spring and summer, and suddenly on Thursday it was like, oh, let's make it 105 degrees, and it was so we had 4 days of record-breaking heat, and I think my players kind of wilted in that.
But you're not trying to make excuses.
Well, that is an excuse. Yeah, I'm trying to make an excuse here. It was the heat.
Let's talk about the weekend that's ahead. Obviously, 2 big games tomorrow, Dallas and New York to get things started, and then Madison and LA. And Exton, when you come to championship weekend as an owner and you're not participating, what are you most excited about for the weekend? Is it one of the games? Is it convening with all the other owners? Is it just seeing the spectacle after another year of progress? What are you most looking forward to this weekend?
Well, this is a really fantastic setting, and 2 years ago, it was awesome to be. It was awesome to be here as one of the teams playing in championship weekend. But it's really special to be alongside another group of owners that are trying to move Ultimate Frisbee forward. And although Seattle Cascades is not in this game, I feel like this is an important weekend for us to connect with other owners, try to figure out the things that are working well with our businesses, think a little bit outside the box about Ultimate and its impact on the greater sports industry. We have an opportunity. Ultimate's a really cool sport, and we're trying to build something special.
Mike, what's it like sitting in the owners' meeting and hearing all the different divergent voices from all around the country? How combative is it? How friendly is it? How productive is it usually?
And who's your least favorite owner?
I got one in mind, but I'm not going to talk about him. No, I think it's a great time to bring everyone together, and it definitely is not a combative experience. I think it's just a experience where we get together and we're trying to better the sport, better the league, do things to make it more efficient and more entertaining, and grow it. And it's great to do this a couple times a year where you actually get to get in front of a bunch of owners that all have different experiences and different levels of attendance or interest, and see what works, what doesn't work. And it's a great experience overall, the times I've attended.
Tim, of all of us on the couch, you've been involved in the AUDL the longest. What, is it 2012 that you first purchased the rights to the Radicals?
Yeah.
Was this the vision back then to have 3,000-4,000 fans and all this great signage and kind of this AUDL championship weekend convention? Did you have this in mind when you first got involved?
Yeah, absolutely. The story of the stadium is that I used to work across the street. My company was located in one of these buildings across the street, and I used to see the stadium, and it was really not in use. And I love watching Ultimate. Like, I think in 2012 I might have been the only person in the world who was really loving watching Ultimate, and just thought I would love to put on live events. And this is exactly what I pictured. Things have gone about the way, I'd say, if anything, things have gone faster than I expected.
So you've prepared now for 6 championship weekends as a coach. How has your preparation evolved from 2013 to 2016 to 2018?
Scouting has gotten way better. So in 2013, we had very little footage of the rush. It was limited. There was maybe 2 UXTV games at the time, and so you didn't really get to see the opponent like you do now. Like now, there's every game we do is taped, and you can watch them. And I got to watch probably 10 Aviator games from this year. I have a really good sense of what they're going to do, and I think that's neat. Like, that gives coaches new tools. Like, when you used to coach Ultimate, you kind of knew by reputation what teams did, and maybe you got to see them once or twice, but you couldn't sit around and slow-mo their plays and try to figure out what was happening. Now you can. You can watch a play over and over again and figure out, like, what was the initiation cut, why did they do it that way, what are they trying to do. So the biggest thing has just been you can prep a lot harder and put as much work in as you want.
For those of you just joining us, we are here on our game day set at Championship Weekend, Bree Stevens Field in Madison. Evan Lepler, Mike Denardis, Exton Titcomb, and Tim DeBile. I know you're not going to give too many details of your LA scouting report. Exton, you played against LA a bunch. What are the big things when you're preparing to face the Aviators that the opponent has to be thinking about?
Well, do I want the Aviators or the Radicals to win tomorrow? The Aviators are a strong, well-rounded team, and you know, maybe this is made up or maybe not, but there's sort of a California style of life, but also of playing Ultimate.
How is that different from a Seattle style?
I think the West Coast is similar. We're passive aggressive in Seattle, and the Californians, they just don't care. The Californians will throw anything. I don't have anything really perceptive. I've enjoyed playing LA a couple times this season, and they've evolved from season to season for some of the same reasons that all teams evolve, but so have we in Seattle. Yeah, it's hard to choose between LA and Madison.
I know you coach a gazillion teams, and you watch a ton of film about the teams you're playing against. Have you watched LA at all?
I haven't, but I've looked at their play. I know their players, a good deal of them, and statistically, I know I got a feel for what their team looks like, what their team does, who they run it through, and I think what Madison's really good at is disrupting inconsistent throwers or an inconsistent handler core, and I think that is probably the key to this game. I think if they dispossess LA and they get their throwers to take some risky looks that aren't pure, I think that will be kind of a telltale of how the game's going to go, especially early with their different defensive looks.
I think LA is considered an underdog facing Madison. Another team that's considered underdog is the New York Empire, who I guess have been to championship weekend before, but it feels like their first championship weekend because 2013 and 2014 were so different. To make it to 2014 championship weekend, New York beat Chicago in a second place in the East versus second place in the Midwest. That was before the Raleigh Flyers were a thing. None of you guys have played against New York this year. What have you been thinking about following New York from afar? Is this team that won at DC in miserable conditions and then beat Toronto in Toronto, are they for real? Could they win the whole thing?
Well, I did scout them. I think they could win. Yeah, arguably they have the best top end talent for sure. You have Beau Kittredge, you have Babbitt, you have Yacht. Those guys are really good. Brownlee is really good. They have some great throwers. So, I mean, I think they can win. I think that they took much longer to put their team together than people expected. I think when you looked at them on paper this year, you're like, wow, they were going to be amazing. And then you'd watch them play, and they weren't very good. I didn't get to watch the full Toronto game, but it seems like they probably have things put together. I did watch that DC game, and honestly, I didn't learn anything. It was a difficult game with difficult conditions. But obviously, winning 2 playoff games in the AUDL is super hard. Very few teams have done that, and so I think they have a great chance of beating Dallas.
If you see him on Sunday, will you be more concerned about the superstars or about everybody else?
The superstars.
Yeah. All of them?
Well, we've played against Ben Yacht before. He used to play for the Windshield. I think Ben Yacht is a really hard matchup. He's tall. He comes under a lot, but he also can go deep. Obviously Babbitt is a unique player, and I'm not sure how we would handle him. We had some brief discussions about it this week, but we haven't gotten that far. There's a lot of good players on them, and on that team, and they're the least known team, I think, even more than LA this year. So LA has been kind of up and coming. Every year they've gotten better. I think I've been keeping an eye on that, so I kind of know their progression. Whereas I think New York kind of came out of nowhere this year, and then they won. We were really surprised.
There was a time in the Midwest when everybody was 3-5 or 4-5 or 5-5, or in the West, I should say, and that's kind of what New York did, coming out of nowhere, and here they are.
Yeah, one of the cool things about the sport of Ultimate, and we'll see it this weekend, teams can go up by a few points, and then teams can go down, and individuals can shine, but it's very much a team sport, and so who's to say how the chemistry among these top players that Tim's talking about and the rest of the team fits together for a complete game or 2 games.
Any matchups, either one-on-one matchups between Dallas, New York, Madison, LA, or a possible finals matchup that you're kind of really anticipating, looking forward to seeing?
I think the Dallas-New York game has the most intriguing potential matchups, but I assume Babbitt's going to take Frood, and if he does, that will be like a matchup of all matchups, because Babbitt's one of the few guys in the league that can limit Frood. I don't know if that'll happen, but that's kind of that's the one that I'm eyeing if it does happen. But I think, like Tim said, New York and Dallas have a lot of star talent, and I think New York even more than in Dallas this year. And it's going to be fun seeing that matchup happen because it's a lot of top end and seeing how those guys all battle.
I wanted to ask you guys, who all are owners and do other things, just how you allocate your AUDL-related time in terms of preparing to play, preparing to coach, owning, marketing, the 5 other things I haven't mentioned. Mike, let me start with you. Just like, what is your timeline like? Let's say you're playing the Atlanta Hustle on Saturday, and it's Sunday, 6 days before. You just beat Nashville the night before. What's that week like, getting ready to host Atlanta on that next Saturday?
Well, historically, my partner Casey has done a lot of the in-game stuff, so game day operations. My wife's trying to take a bigger role in that, but I'm dabbling here and there now. But in terms of the team management, that's always been me, and essentially it's early in the week is evaluation of our last game. Monday, Tuesday, looking film at how that game progressed, getting whatever notes I will need to get out on that specific game, anything we need to tweak. And then Wednesday, Thursday is kind of a evaluation of the other team, putting together a scouting doc, putting together matchups, putting together what I've seen them do season-wise.
How in-depth is that scouting doc?
I mean, it has players, it has tendencies, it has sets. It's certainly been a little bit thinner this season because I've just been doing so much in terms of USAU and AUDL, but week to week, I mean, we have that stuff year to year, and week to week, we're trying to evaluate it and reassess and tweak how we need to tweak or how I need to tweak. So, midweek that stuff happens, and then we try to pick the roster after our midweek practice, and then it's kind of on to the weekend.
What about in Seattle? You're also, I'm sure, doing some workouts when you're planning on playing.
There's a lot of work to be done. I was a player this past season, and also a member of the leadership, and we don't have a traditional coaching model in the way that some of the other teams do. We have some captain coaches, and we share the responsibilities of running practices and strategizing for games, but I'm also moving boxes around and planning our marketing and media campaigns and trying to form some synergy with other owners so that as a league we can move forward. And I'm not just, and not just operate in the mindset of Seattle on what's best for us. It's taxing. It's a lot of hours a week, but it's also invigorating to be moving things forward with other good people.
I'm sure seeing fans come through the gates is as gratifying as anything. Tim, you see that as much as anybody, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first year that you haven't played a single game in your AUDL career, and that could change this weekend. You're the coach and the owner. You could activate yourself. Opening poll tomorrow afternoon. Any consideration of that?
No, but it is the first year that I haven't played, and I'm disappointed, and my family's a little disappointed too. I wanted to keep it going, but it didn't work out this year. But yeah, I mean, for me, I love the game day experience part of it. It's the most rewarding part of it in a way. Like, this is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be entertainment, and if you're not putting on a good show, it's just not fun for anybody. So for me, that's a big part of what I do. I have an assistant coach, Jake Spiro, who's been super helpful, and he's been doing more and more of the scouting and more of the matchups over the last few years. We started with a system in 2013 that I kind of created, and we've really stuck to that system generally. There's obviously been a lot of tweaks to it, but like the way that we manage players, the way we think about games, the way everything happens, that's been really similar. And so that's really given us the opportunity to, I think, spend a little less time on the day-to-day things with players and a little more time on like big picture, like this is what LA does, and like we know how to react to it, and everybody knows what their role is going to be. So that's been really nice. And I think like that consistency when all teams get it, like an NFL team or an NBA team or something, is really going to help.
Where would you say your system came from? Did you just like steal it from another city, or
no,
when you coached the Wisconsin women's B team, did you have a system and bring that over?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I played Masters. I played a lot of Ultimate previously, and there's just a lot of things that I brought, from other sports that I thought were important that I think a lot of Ultimate players didn't. Like, making sure there's one voice is I think really important to a team. And so we got rid of a lot of the like chit chat in games between players and really focus on the coaching staff doing that and the players focusing on playing. And then, I think just having more defined roles for everybody. I think a lot of Ultimate teams don't do that. Like, we have 7 lines probably that we put together, and I can call that line out and say, hey, T15, which is our like under 15 line, and everybody knows what they're supposed to do. Like that, okay, this is the under 15 second line. You're on it. You're on that board. Every game the boards change, like who's on what line, but they all know what they're supposed to do when they're on that line.
Do you take requests for lines?
No, we don't. We do
mustache
not.
Line?
We're very regimented in how we decide how we pick everything. Like, players don't get a lot of say in that, and I think the players like that. I think in club, you do a lot more talking about who should be where, and everybody has a say in it. Whereas I think the whole idea of the professional level is that the players can come and they can play, and that's what they do. They come out and they play and they work on their craft. And they don't have to worry about the logistics or the money or trying to figure out what the strategy is or who should be playing how much time. Like, that's all handled by the Radical staff for them. So I think that's sort of the way we approached it from day one, and I think the players appreciate that, and that's why they're still here. I mean, the people from year one, I think I looked at from 2013 championship, there's still 14 players that are active this weekend or something.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot.
That's incredible.
We love this aspect in Seattle too. The sport is accessible for the Cascades, and so we have players from all backgrounds, and it's an opportunity that can be kind of expensive in other categories of Ultimate.
Just talking about systems, is the system you run with the Flyers and North Carolina right now like kind of the same system you ran when you were coaching Northwestern 10 years ago?
No. The Northwestern system is way different than the UNC and Flyers and Ring system. But, there's several aspects of the UNC system that we brought together that we go through the whole gauntlet of teams, right? But AUDL is a different animal in terms of what you can expect to succeed, what you can expect to fail, and it's everything is tweaked a little bit, just like it is from college to club. College to club's not the same. Club to pro is not the same. And you take a lot of the aspects like resets and offensive kind of flow and what we're looking to do and defensive positioning and build those in. And then you kind of build the system around the pro game, like in terms of what kind of defensive sets work better, what kind of offensive sets work better. But it's pretty similar at this point in time.
Back to championship weekend. When fans come to Breese Stevens Field tomorrow, will there be anything special that they've never seen before?
The LA Aviators.
That's a great point.
Not really. I mean, we have our general same game day. We have an extra beer garden set up in the back end zone, an extra VIP area, but we're not doing anything overly special. We thought about bringing in a bouncy house or a zip line, and like last time, we ran out of room. There was so many fans here, we ran out of room, and we really wanted to focus on making sure we had enough room if there was as many fans here that we expect. I mean, this little set obviously is new, and it takes up a little bit of space. There's 50 fans who are going to not be able to sit up here, maybe, or 40, but we optimized the entire stadium for space this time.
How many fans are we expecting?
Well, I mean, last time we were at 3,500 or something, and we were close to capacity. I mean, I would love to beat that. I don't have an expectation to do that. I think 2016 was a very unique experience. Yeah. We've sold a lot of tickets, but I really don't know what to expect tomorrow. But, it would be amazing if we had a similar or better experience than we had last time.
When you put your head on a pillow tonight, will you be more nervous about the game day operation or the Los Angeles Aviators?
Well, I mean, I'm more nervous about the game day operation because that's out of my control. Obviously, I am very excited about the game. I get very excited about Ultimate games. I want this game to happen. I would play LA right now behind us if we could do it right now. I don't want to wait till tomorrow if we don't have to.
You have to wait till tomorrow.
Yeah, I figure.
What are you most excited about for tomorrow, this doubleheader that should be pretty special?
Yeah, I mean, the games will be competitive, and
No one can hear you, Exton.
here we go.
Come on.
It'll be great to see these players compete. We'll see players who care tremendously about the sport, put it all on the line, fail, bring it back up, and I'm looking forward to the resilience and the character. It's cool to be here with other AUDL owners that are trying to run businesses in their cities. The marketing and sort of business startup part of my brain is jazzed. So I'm thinking about ideas and, want to share ideas with others. How about you, Mike?
I think the big thing is like when we came and visited here during the season, it's just it's electric, right? It's what I think every owner and every team wants to see happen with the league, right? Have 3,000 people cheering teams on, and one in particular, but watching the coach in me wants to see these teams that I haven't seen before, and I think it's cool to see them matched up against Dallas and Madison teams we've experienced. But I think just the electricity and just when somebody makes a really cool play, watching the crowd go nuts, and I think that's something that ever since I started playing, I dreamed about watching. I dreamed about doing it. When you're playing Ultimate in front of 50 people, it feels like a big experience, back in the day. And now there's thousands, and that's a really that's the high point for me. That's the highlight, or what I like. That's what I'm gonna watch and enjoy.
And obviously, there's going to be a ton of talent on the field. I don't want to ask you this, but I want to ask each of you guys. If you could draft one player on the 4 teams that are going to be here to start your team with, one player to start your team with from Madison, LA, Dallas, or New York for this weekend and this weekend only, so we're not talking a guy for the next 5 years, who would the pick be?
Well, I'm a D guy, so I've watched Jeff Babbitt play, and he's a freak of nature. And I think there's a lot of things that I'd be able to do with him as a coach. So he'd be number 1 on my board.
What are the things that you have deep in that chemical scientist mind of yours?
He can get lazy. He can get lazy, take some plays off, and that's stuff that I think I would be able to coach out of him, or positionally let him save legs in different ways than taking some plays off.
I would go with Beau. So
really?
Here we have 2 New Yorkers. I think Beau is a great athlete, a great competitor, and a great person too. I think he has shown a lot of leadership too for players and people in our sport, and I want him on my team. I've never played with him before.
Yeah. You don't have to answer the question, but you were talking about yacht before and how difficult. I mean, is it possible that the 3 answers to this question could be 3 guys from New York?
Well, I mean, I do love Ben Yacht. I mean, I'm not going to answer that question that way, but I will say that scouting LA, Chris Mazer, I think is underappreciated. He brings such energy to that team. I think, LA's done a lot of good things to get where they are, and I think Chris Mazer moving into that team has been a catalyst for that. You see him run off the field after every play with energy like he's a 12-year-old playing for the first time, and I think that is contagious for teams, and I think that he's really brought something to that team that's unique, and I think that's going to be hard for us to play against tomorrow.
So if I asked you, keys to the game generally,
sure.
Where does your mind go to first, and is slowing Mazer down?
Yeah, slowing Mazer down. I think the whole game is going to come down to whether their deep shots work against us. I mean, that's really, they're a very aggressive team. They're going to put those throws up. We're going to try to DM.
Do you want those throws to go up?
Yeah, of course we do. Yeah, we're aligned here. They want to throw them and we want them to throw them, so we'll see how it goes, right? And then it's just a matter of who wins in the air and, whether our defense will be able to, get turns on them. I don't see them coming in tomorrow and playing anything other than what they've done all year, which is a very aggressive style of Ultimate, which is super interesting. I mean, we play the opposite. We're very opposite in a lot of ways, and then a lot of things that they do on both offense and defense, I see in us too. So I think I don't know if they've borrowed a couple of our plays, but for sure we run this 32 set a lot, which I know a lot of teams do, but they run it the same way we do.
What's a 32 set?
So 3 on the weak side, 2 on the strong side, and you can run it either way, but the way they run kind of a clearing pattern out of their 3 set. So 2 will clear it. It's like a, like a mini zipper play from the sideline to the break side. They run the same set we do, like literally that very play. So I don't know if they took it from us or where, but it's interesting when you scout another team and you see something that you're like, wow, that's a play that we run. But they poach a lot on defense too, and we do that too. Like they're gonna poach off the handlers a ton, and they're gonna have help deep too. So like I think in a lot of ways the teams are similar. They force a lot of backhand. We don't really. They play a 2-3-2 zone. We play a 2-4-1 zone, but it's not that different. So yeah, I think it'll be really interesting. I think it could be high scoring, which will be surprising, I think, for people, because I think we can put up some numbers too.
You think it's going to be high scoring?
I think it's going to be high scoring, yeah. And the weather's going to be great. I don't see a lot of stops happening in that game. I think it'll be a pretty high scoring game.
Feels like the Radicals don't try to slow the game down anymore, or do you just kind of resign that going against a team like LA, like they could shred your zone? I'm sure you'll throw it once or twice in the first half to try to confuse them.
Yeah, I mean, we play a little zone, but when we used to play zone, we usually play zone in situations where we feel like the other team is significantly better than us, then we want to keep the score down. Like, we always get matched up against some pretty high-powered offenses in championship weekend. I mean, if you look back at last year's Flamethrowers team, I mean, you had 6 U.S. national team players on their O-line, and the other one was Mac Taylor. And then the 2 years ago we played Exton's team, and you had Nick Stewart and Matt Rader on the same team. Like the offenses that we've played have been, really incredibly good. And LA has a very good offense, but they don't have a world's class, a world's team offense. Where I think both the Cascades 2 years ago and San Francisco last year did. So like, yeah, we want to keep the score low, but I think in this game, I think both teams will be fine with the score getting high. So we're probably play a lot of man defense.
Madison, LA is the nightcap, 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central. Doubleheader begins with Dallas and New York. You've coached against Dallas a number of times. What are the keys going into a game against the Roughnecks that New York will have to be thinking about?
Well, to start, you don't want to blow a 12-6 halftime lead.
That's very important.
That's key one. I think the same premise of how Madison would beat a New York. You want to put their throwers in difficult situations because they aren't the ideal throwing set. Matt Jackson's a really good distributor and a really good reset, but he can be rattled. And Brandon Malachek's an amazing thrower also, but he also is a little bit older, and if you can take him out of his comfort zone, he's kind of the piece that makes their offense go. So, in our playoff game, that's what happened to begin with, and then we got rattled the other way. But I think that's a big go-to there is just take away those throwers, try to make their looks difficult, and don't let them out athlete you in a big field, and be good.
Which of the young guys on Dallas have you been most intrigued by watching this year?
Probably Carson Wilder. But they have like 2 or 3 guys that are from these small colleges, like Kaplan Maurer. I think Kaplan Maurer's from like Arkansas. Griffin Miller is another one, and they're athletes that just show up, right? They lost all these power players the last year, and then they bring up like 3 or 4 guys that no one probably knows, but they're 22, 23, and or maybe even younger than that. But they're superb athletes, and in Carson Wilder's case, he's a great offensive piece already. So, yeah, they have those 3 guys, and then just like Kevin Richardson killed us in our playoff game, and he's younger, but it's just an unknown young talent that they have that they're bringing up. It's surprising.
Yeah, Kevin Richardson is a big X factor for this Dallas team that I'm not sure many people knew about before the season, but he's a matchup problem as well.
They should know after our playoff game he scored 7 goals.
Have you've watched the film, I imagine?
I watch them all. It's depressing sometimes.
Just grab a flask in the film and get going. We'll wrap up shortly as we get ready for championship weekend tomorrow. One story that kind of looms over the entire weekend that I'm curious to get each of your thoughts on is Beau. And he's certainly no stranger to this event. He's won it each of the past 4 years with 3 different teams. Now he's with New York. a team that certainly didn't look like a champion caliber squad through the first 2.5 months of the season, and yet here they are. In the opinion of any of you, how much is like the Beau magic real? What do you see him adding from afar, and what kind of player is he still? How, if you're matching up against him, how afraid of him are you, and how much he can hurt you at 36 years old?
Well, I can take this one first since we've lost to him 3 of the last 4 years. You know, I think he's underrated as a leader. You know, I feel like it isn't so much that he's still doing a lot of things on the field, but I feel like whenever he's on the field, the team that he's on plays better. And, you know, I mean, he's still, you know, an amazing player. He's a great athlete, but, you know, I think what he's doing in New York is probably bringing them together as a team and teaching them how to win. And that's a hard thing to teach somebody. And he has that respect. People respect him. He has got a big voice probably on that team. And, you know, that's the biggest thing for me, for them, is just like his leadership sort of scares me because we've had not much success against their teams. You know, when I'm game planning, I'm always looking at Ashlyn Joy in the past, but you know, Beau is obviously out there and helping them win.
Exon, you've had to play against Beau a number of times.
Yeah, I've played against Beau in the club scene and a time or two as I played on Cascades, and I'm not a great matchup versus Beau. I have guarded him a couple times, but when I, you know,
what's that like matching up with him?
I've tried to push him under and just play low and very close to him. He's a fierce competitor, and I agree that he rubs off on his teammates in a really positive way. I think that he has a certain confidence and a work ethic, and also just enough humility to really get people, you know, to join him in championing the same kind of effort and you know, I don't know what to describe it. It's magic in some ways, but he's figured out how to win.
When you look at Beau in 2018, what do you see?
You know, I think this Final Four is going to be really telling of the player he has become, because Revolver and you know, the teams he's played for in the AUDL, they've had he's had great success being a facilitator in his later years because they've had great players surrounding him. And he hasn't had to do a lot, but he's done enough to make sure the offense continues to go. This is interesting because you see a Beau that's kind of like, you know, it's like one of his last gunfights at the OK Corral, and he's a little bit undergunned, and you'll get to see what he's made of in these situations and how he can pull this team through or not, because he's going to be called upon and demanded of more than he has the last couple of years. And he's certainly shown, he's brought another team to this event, and he's certainly shown what a leader he is. But there's going to be situations this weekend where he's called upon, and you're going to get to see if he still has the juice.
Yeah. When we talk about New York, I mean, the thing I'm most curious about is how they use their depth and how good the bottom of their roster can be, and also how many points their top players can go. And frankly, I'm thinking about it with Madison as well. Like, how many points is Peter Graffi going to play, because he's such an important part for both of your lines. On the AUDL field, as a coach, as a player, how many points can a guy play going both ways before he becomes, I don't want to say a liability, but not as effective?
Well, depends how you scheme for him. If he's in a lot of junks, if he's in a lot of zones, he can probably play a good amount, but 2 games is a different animal. Like, 1 game you can play probably 30 points, but 2 games, I've never had to experience that. I've never had a player that I play that often. You know, I think a lot of these guys are good with recovery now, but I could see you squeezing 25, 30 points out of them in 2 games. Hopefully none of these teams have to do that, because I'm guessing that player would be pretty fatigued by the end of the 2nd game. But, you know, I think it depends on how they take care of their body, and guys like Graffi and Beau certainly can't do that. But there's 21, 22-year-olds that can still do it if you scheme for them correctly.
Graphic can do that. I mean, there's a reason he plays deep in the zone. He can play. We can play a lot of points. We can play a lot of points with Peter. But actually, Peter is an underrated cardio. His cardio is really good. He actually, I think, has a lot of juice left in him.
So, do you have is it a limit of number of points, or how many times he crosses over and plays D? I mean, is that something you're thinking about, or is it all just what you see on game day and the instinct tomorrow?
No, it's situational. I mean, if we'll definitely push the margins a little bit with him if we need to. So it just depends on what the game situation is. If we feel like we need him and we need a couple extra breaks or whatever it is, then he'll play those points, and we're gonna worry about only tomorrow. Like, I agree with Mike that it is a 2-game scenario, but like for us, we're 100% focused on the first game, and if our top lines need to play every point to win that game at the end of the day, that's what we're going to do, because if you lose, it doesn't help you to have rested guys. So it's a tough thing, and it's another one of those interesting coaching things where you get an opportunity to kind of push your players and think about like what are you going to do in the next game if it's close.
What's the most points you ever played in an AUDL game?
A lot. We had a game in 2014 here against Indianapolis, and we rostered 14 people. So I think I played probably 25 points that game.
Wow.
It was 92 degrees. I could tell you more, but
you blacked out after like
no,
point 10.
It's the only game winner I've ever thrown in the AUDL.
That's right.
You might remember it, Evan.
I do remember it. Indy, how could you let that happen?
Indy was up 3 with less than a minute left, and we won in regulation. It was a crazy game.
Yeah.
I'd like to point out it's hard to play, more than a few points in a row, of course, but not just physically. Mentally, there's a flow and there's a mental toughness that can matter a lot for a player, even if they're in excellent shape. All the players we're talking about tonight, if they're on a roll, they could play a lot of points and be effective. But if they're, not performing their best, then, they might not be pulling the weight on the field that the team needs.
The speed of the game, I think X mentioned there, is something that I think surprises a lot of players when they come in, is that the shortness between points. You don't really get that break of like, hey, I get a few minutes to think about what we're doing. It's just a constant, hey, the other team scored in 17 seconds. I got to get on the field, and we're gonna pull in 30 seconds. So it's a interesting part of the game that I think people are still learning how to manage it the best.
By the way, have you ever thought about rostering yourself for a game?
Absolutely not.
Why not?
When I was done,
you could run on Tim for days.
when I was done playing, I said I'm kind of done with competition. When I was done my last year playing Masters, I just didn't want to take the field anymore. I switched roles. I decided like this is my role, and I think some of my players would love it because they would just get ammo to make fun of me for years. So that's part of it too.
So you're saying there's a better chance you'll roster me for a game than roster yourself?
Yeah, probably. You did come to our combine.
I did.
You were
I
throwing
held
bombs.
my own
turnovers,
but they were deep, really deep throws. And I actually was, not to hijack, but I was not the slowest guy at the combine. In the measurables.
You made.
I was middle of the pack.
You took yourself out of the running, but you made the second round of cuts, and
That's
that was
right.
with 100. That was with 100+ tryouts.
That's right.
So
hey,
this
I'm
guy.
nearing the end of my career. You could take my spot, but you'll have to beat out a lot of great players in Seattle.
Yeah,
like Mark
I
Munoz.
can't. No, I don't run anymore. So yeah, if you could roster me, but no, I've switched roles too. All right. You guys see how I can plan on talking for 20 minutes, and then we ramble for 45 minutes. We're closing in on 45. I won't ask you your predictions for the weekend, but I'll ask Mike and Exton. Dallas and New York tomorrow, 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Central. It'll be myself and Brian Jones and Ian Toner on the call live on Stadium. We'll have a pregame show starting on Facebook Live and other social media an hour before then. This has all been my way of delaying to give yourself some time to think about New York and Dallas. Who you got?
I think that's going to be a fun game, but I'm going to take Dallas. I think Dallas is going to have a little bit of more depth, and even though New York probably has a little bit better high-end talent, I think the depth's going to pay off for Dallas there.
If I had to bet, I would bet on Dallas too. And are we just talking about that game?
Yeah.
Dallas.
But it's funny. I think we all think New York can win.
Yeah.
But and we all talked about how New York has the players that you would draft first on your team, but obviously Ultimate is not 1-on-1 or 2-on-2. Do you have an inclination for the Dallas-New York game that you'd like to share? I understand if you don't.
You know, I feel like Dallas is probably going to win, but it wouldn't surprise me if New York did, and I think it would be pretty fun if New York did. So, I mean, I'm not really cheering for either one of them, but if I was, it would be New York.
Which team have you spent more time scouting in the past 2 weeks?
No comment.
That's a smart guy. All right, Madison and L.A. It'll be myself and Chuck Kindred and Megan Tormey on the call of that one. We'll have a bunch of guests on our Game Day Live shows tomorrow. Charlie Eisenhood from Ultiworld will be here. Aaron Maraca, the coach of the Minnesota Wind Chill, is going to be here. A couple of these guys may jump on the set as well. Some other players as we get you wall-to-wall coverage. Madison and L.A. under the lights. Radicals have the crowd. Does the crowd carry them back to another AUDL final?
Yeah, I think so. I think they've been here so many times. They have all the tools to win, and I think LA is probably going to feel some pressure in this stadium.
Do you? Sorry, Exton. Raleigh obviously struggled early in the game in their first championship weekend experience. What would you say you learned from that first half?
Who did you play in that game?
I don't remember.
What did you learn from your first championship weekend experience that you would advise a team like LA that you're right, they do have a bunch of guys who haven't been in this spotlight before?
Don't take 1 a.m. flights. I hope they didn't do that last night. I think that situation was tough. The stadium was tough. It was windy. It was a different atmosphere than we were used to the entire season. And the moment was pretty big for that team. That was one of our first. I think we were in a similar spot than LA is right now, and it's hard not to get overwhelmed by the adrenaline, the moment, all the stuff that's going on, the quickness of like how you're supposed to warm up, the timing, and it's hard to get through in the first time you're here. And I think the only advice I have is just get ready early, be prepared mentally and physically for that game, and take more time than you're used to.
Good advice. Exton, who you got?
I would love to see.
It would
Madison.
take a lot of guts for you to pick against the Madison Radicals right here.
I really want to see Madison play in the finals on Sunday, but at the same time, I'm from the West Coast, and so is LA, so I would like to see them win the game. Either 50-50.
Give me a pick. Come on.
Madison.
Picking Madison. Who do you got? The Radicals or the Aviators?
I got Madison.
Do you? I'm surprised by that. So I think you all kind of think Madison-Dallas final. And you don't have to give me your pick necessarily for that game, but give me a thought on that matchup. They met once in the regular season last year, 2017. And it was a weird game looking back on it because Madison had, I think, like a 4-goal lead midway through the third quarter, and then Dallas came back, if we want to put it nicely. You could say Madison kind of disintegrated as well. That's the only time they've ever met in this league, and I know you're thirsting for another shot. Adam, your thoughts on a possible Madison-Dallas final?
I won't give a pick. I'll just say that I think Madison learned a lot from playing us this season. And I think they probably grew from it. I think Dallas matches us. They're a similar team athletically and strategically, and I think that experience Madison had is going to help them a lot in this game, assuming they win.
I think it would be a fun game to see, and I can't, I think I would. I think this is the year for Madison.
It's okay if you guys pick Dallas.
Yeah, that's what they're hoping for. Do you have any wrinkles in mind of things you've never done before tactically that you could break out this weekend?
Oh, sure. We always have wrinkles. It depends on the situation. I don't think tomorrow is going to be a particularly interesting day for new things. It's going to be great weather. I think there's not going to be any wind. A lot of times I feel like the best time to pull something new out is when the weather conditions are not conducive to, you know, a normal style of game. And so, but when the weather's perfect, you know, it's not a great time to pull something too tricky out. But, you know, we probably have at least a couple ideas of things we might do tomorrow.
Would you prefer it be windy?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Of course. Yeah.
Just because you guys are so seasoned in those elements in the stadium? And
I think it gives a team that's maybe spent more time preparing and more time playing together, you know, a better opportunity. Like I said, I think the strategies get wider when there's elements involved. I think if it's just the perfect weather, it really comes down to like picking your best scheme and letting the athletes play and seeing how it goes.
All right, last thing for the night. What will it be like for you as the coach and owner of the Madison franchise to play in this game or these games in front of this crowd that behind us tomorrow will probably be packed and electric and as rah-rah radicals as they've ever been?
I think it's one of the more interesting things about this that I didn't really anticipate was like it's like a little humbling and also just neat, you know, like this having all these people who want you to win and like want you to win really badly. Like when we lost that game to Seattle, like there were people crying and, you know, it was crazy. And like you just want to win for them. And it's not like when I started again, I thought of it as entertainment and like, oh, this is, you know, this is gonna be fun for people, and it is fun for them. But they also get so attached to you as a team, and like you forget that. Like, I mean, I grew up attached to the Packers, and I remember, you know, every playoff loss and everything like that. And you know, you don't really think that could happen, and like I think it's happening here. And you know, so for me, it's just I want to win because I know our fans want us to win, and it would be really great to do it here.
Well, it should be a really special weekend here at Breese Stevens Field in Madison. So I try to figure out which camera I'm looking at here. We'll get it sorted out by tomorrow. You'll see less of our legs tomorrow as well. We'll iron that out and shoot more, because I know there's been comments about like people are making fun of my cargo shorts, which, you know, the cargo shorts aren't going away. They're coming back in style.
Yep, I got them.
Yeah, you mainly get there. I have an iPhone charger and well, anyway. We'll be on the air at 4 o'clock Eastern time from right here, the game day set, to count you down to the opening pull, which will be at 5 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Central, here at Breese Stevens Field, Dallas and New York, and then Madison and L.A. Any final thoughts, gentlemen?
Shout out to my teammates in Seattle.
Quick plug for the Eurostars.
Right.
They're helping us run a clinic tomorrow from 10 to noon here. I think we have 100 kids almost signed up for it. And then
all the Eurostars will be here to
most
run
of
that
them,
clinic.
yeah, because their game against Heist is on Tuesday.
That's cool.
And so they're going to be running the clinic, and then they're going to be here for the games this weekend, and then they're going to hang around until Tuesday. So the Eurostars tour starts on Tuesday, and we're super excited about that.
And next weekend they'll be on Stadium.
Yeah,
from San Francisco.
Yeah, against Fury.
Fury versus who do you got in that game? Fury or the Eurostars?
I'm thinking the Eurostars win every game because they're kind of my team now as far as like who I'm rooting for and helping. So
no pressure, Eurostars, but you're gonna let Tim down if you don't take care of business.
You should win them all.
Cool. Well, we will sign off and go grab dinner and grab a beer. But Tim DeBile, Exton Titcomb, Mike Denardis, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching.
Good night.
We will see you tomorrow here at Championship Weekend. Look at this drone footage we got. This place will be packed and bouncing tomorrow. For our entire crew, I'm Evan Lepler. Good night from Madison. Championship Weekend begins very soon. Good night, everybody.